Moving abroad sounds exciting, and it is. New culture, new adventures, but what do you do when loneliness kicks in? Trust me, it happens to everyone. The good news? There are 5 steps that helped me beat loneliness abroad, and if you follow them, they'll work for you too. So let's go. Hi everyone, I'm Kimberly Ann, and I'm a US expat who moved to Portugal in 2022, sight unseen, by myself without a support group. In this video, I'm talking about loneliness. And the first thing to do, in my opinion, is normalizing it. Feeling lonely abroad doesn't mean that you made the wrong choice. It's a completely normal part of the journey, and remember, it is temporary. So now I want to talk about the 5 steps that I took to get out of my comfort zone and start building a community. So the first one is building small daily routines. And it could be something as simple as going to the same cafe on your corner every morning, because it helps you feel grounded and it also creates opportunities to meet new people. My routine today is a little bit different, but I get out every morning after I take my dog to daycare, and I have to do that because she's a herding breed, which I didn't know anything about before I adopted her. She was found in a tiny town in Portugal, running around the forest wild. So I then take a 10 to 20 minute walk all around my neighborhood every single morning, and I see a lot of the same people. There is a coffee shop that I do frequent. I don't go there every day, but I do go there frequently enough. And if you're interested in that coffee shop, I actually made a video about it and I'll post that here. But I love walking around my neighborhood. And I love being active. So that is something that I have done to set up a routine. When I first moved here, I actually joined a co-working space, and the people there were amazing. And I went there because there was construction happening next door when I first moved in, and I needed a quiet space to work. So those are a couple of examples. Step 2, join an expat group or a few different expat groups, or join local groups. So I definitely did this. I joined, luckily, we have government-sponsored language classes here in Portugal, and I was able to go to free language classes. It was a commitment. It was 6 hours a week for a year, but I made so many friends from several different countries. I'm still friends with some of them, and it was a fantastic experience. And I just say this because this is like a really, really, really good way to meet people. And maybe they don't have a free language group, but maybe they have a low-cost language group in the country that you're living. So that is number 1. Number 2, something that I did and I would really encourage you to do, is introduce yourself to your neighbors. So I did this, and I've become very, very close friends with my neighbors. And I'm friends with all my neighbors, but 2 in particular, I'm very good friends with now. And it was just, it was amazing. They're fantastic people, and we do stuff together all the time. So I highly recommend that if you can. And number 3 is that I have met so many people just walking my dog. Luckily, we have a pedestrian only walkway near my apartment, and I walk my dog often on that pedestrian only walkway. And I do see the same people a lot. And I have become pretty good friends with a couple of them. And we've exchanged phone numbers or WhatsApp numbers. And we've gone out on coffee dates. And it's been really fun. So that is a way, especially if maybe you can tell I'm a little bit of an extrovert. I'm on the line on the Myers-Briggs scale, but I'm a little more extroverted. So I do talk to people a lot. But having the dog to break that barrier really, really helps. And if they have a dog and you have a dog, it's great. And then number 4, and I've met people this way too, is going to a class for something that you're interested in. And it could be pickleball, it could be martial arts. I met a good friend in a martial arts class. It could be circus school, which I also do, even at the ripe old age of almost 60, or it could be a yoga class. And I have met amazing people now in my circus class. I just joined a new circus class, and I've been doing, and I talk about this a lot, but I did circus for 10 years or trapeze for 10 years before I moved here. And even though I'm an old lady, I still love it for fitness. And I have already gone out with a couple people in my circus class, and we go to circus events together. So that can be really, really fun. And then number 5 is I have met people, and I know this sounds really weird, especially if you're living somewhere, but I have met people on tour groups. So I have taken a bunch of tour groups here in Portugal. There's a person who does like historical tours, and they're really based on architecture, but they're also just talking about the history of Portugal. And I found them through Meetup.com, where you can find a bunch of groups. You just type in Porto hiking and you would find groups. Or if you're in, let's say, Spain and you're in maybe Sevilla, you would type in Sevilla dog walking group, or Sevilla hiking, or Sevilla pickleball, or whatever, and or historical tours. So I've met a couple people that way, and we are still friends as well. And that I do that when I go all over the world. I do the Sand Demand free tours, and I have met people all over the world traveling that I'm still really good friends with. So those are a couple ideas. If you're getting something out of this video, I would love it, love it, love it if you would subscribe, and please stay tuned for the rest of the steps. So step number 3 is avoiding isolation traps. And I know this is hard. Believe me, I spent a year on the couch, very sad, playing a lot of video games when I broke my fingers. So I get it. But I'm going to say, if it's not for a health reason, please don't spend all of your free time watching Netflix and calling home. And it's not that you shouldn't call home, because you definitely should. I have scheduled calls with people back in the US, and because there's an 8-hour time difference, and I'm from the West Coast in the US, I often have to talk to them in the evening, but I have to schedule that around my maybe dinners with friends here. So I'm very conscious about not scheduling time when I have an opportunity to go out with new friends here, or go to an expat meetup, or go to a local meetup, or something like that, or go to a party or whatever. But I just want to say that it's really important to schedule real life connections. And when you meet a new friend and you exchange numbers, reach out to them and ask them when they can meet for coffee. And it's a good icebreaker, and it's a good way to get to know people. Step number 4 is giving back. So volunteering abroad is kind of a secret hack, because it gives you purpose, you find a community, and you meet amazing people that also want to volunteer and give back. So some of the things you could look into are animal shelters. I have a couple good friends who volunteer at the cat shelter here. I have a friend that volunteered to help build housing because she bought a rundown house down south and she wanted to redo it herself, and so she volunteered to learn how. And then there's always language exchange. So you could maybe post in a Facebook group, for a local Facebook group, asking somebody who is fluent in whatever language, wherever you're living, and do a English to, let's just say Spanish, language exchange, or English to Portuguese language exchange, or English to Greek language exchange, depending obviously on where you're living. So those are my 5 steps. There's a lot more to say about this, but I'm going to save it for future videos. I just want to let you know that real friendships definitely take time, and don't expect to meet your new best friend overnight. But if you put yourself out there and you get to know people and you go to these groups and you go to these different meetups, you're going to find your community. I did. And one thing that was really, really hard for me to come face to face with or look at was the fact that in the US, and I'm from California, please don't hold that against me. I lived in a small community the last 11 years. I lived in San Francisco for 20 years, and it doesn't really matter, but the last 11 years I lived in a small community north of San Francisco. And the reason that I moved to that community is because I had 4 good friends that lived there. And one of them was one of my closest friends. And I was always going to her house, like constantly. And I was always driving from where I lived. Well, I first lived in Sausalito when I first moved over the Golden Gate Bridge. And I love Sausalito. I lived on the houseboats. Amazing. But I would drive to meet her at her house in this smaller community, a little farther north. So I kind of fell in love with this little town as well because it's kind of a throwback from the past. It's got a bunch of hiking trails. It's got sweet little restaurants, ice cream parlor. It's just a really cute little area. But the main reason that I moved there is because I had some good friends there. And I lived there for 11 years, and not one of those people, including the one that I thought was one of my closest friends, ever visited my apartment. Ever. In 11 years. And I lived half a mile from them. So 1 kilometer away. And they never, but not one single one, ever. So I learned a couple things. One is that I no longer bend over backwards for a situation that I'm not sure what the outcome will be. And I'm not selfish, but I have learned to put myself and my needs first and do what makes me feel happy. And then I have found that that is what other people see and other people gravitate toward. So I'm just using that as an example. Maybe you have a wonderful community. I hope you have a wonderful community where you are, but you can also find a wonderful community when you move abroad. So my community here is I don't want to diss my friends back home by saying it's much better. Now, I will say that I would say probably 95, I would say every single person except for 2 from when I lived back in California even speak to me now. And I had dozens and dozens and dozens of friends that just never spoke to me again because out of sight, out of mind. Don't blame them. They're all great people, but they moved on with their lives. And my 2 closest friends are the only 2 that still connect with me pretty much on a daily basis, but nobody else. And the community here is very different. And it's probably because I live in a city, and maybe it's because I live in a city. I don't know. The only thing I know is that people reach out, they ask me to do things, we go out to lunch, they engage with me. It's not just me chasing them. So back in the US, I was always asking people, hey, do you want to get together? And then I would have to drive 1 hour to see them because obviously the people in my little area did not make the effort, but I would still see a bunch of different people. I had a bunch of friends, and I would drive 1 hour to go see them and 1 hour home, and it was not reciprocated for the most part. Like I said, my 2 closest friends did come and see me, but the others did not. And it was painful. It was a painful experience to learn. So hard and painful way to learn. That experience, yes. So here people invite me out and we have coffee, we have dinner, we have lunch. One time we went to an escape room. It's just really fun. It's just a really, I don't want to say it's a really tight community, but it's different. It's the kind of community that I personally have always dreamed of and have never had. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope that you got something out of this video. That was the goal. And if you liked this video, I would love it if you would subscribe. As I say all the time, I love living abroad. I have 0 regrets, would do it over again in a heartbeat. And if you want some freebies, you can join my newsletter down below. And I've got a few booklets that will help you with your move abroad and help you with your budget. And I hope to see you in the next video.